Hello, and welcome to my presentation on liquid tapering, how to make your compound solution and create a taper plan. This presentation also includes a live demo. Before we begin, I'd like to tell you a little bit about myself. My name is Lisa Tivierge, and I am polymedicated. I've been on Klonopin for over 17 years. I've also been on various antidepressants throughout this time, and my previous doctor actually had me on two. She had me on Vybrid and Effexor XR. I have successfully tapered off of Vybrid. I am currently in my Klonopin taper, and after my Klonopin taper is complete, I will move on to the last medication taper, which is Effexor XR. If you're like me, finding information on how to actually create the solution for a liquid taper is extremely difficult to find, and I was extremely frustrated. I have found that liquid tapering is the best method to taper off a psychiatric drug. I have tried just about every single approach there is. I've tried dry cutting, I've tried everything, and liquid tapering really is the best method. And I'd like to give a shout out to Builder on Benzo Buddies for teaching me this method that I'm going to teach you today. And I created this presentation so that I could teach others this method, as well as how to be successful in their taper journey. And if you're wondering about the turtle or the tortoise is our mascot and is based off the Aesop fable, The Tortoise and the Hare. A successful taper is a marathon. It's not a sprint. So channel your inner turtle. And now for the disclaimers. I am not a medical professional. The contents, information, and opinions provided in this presentation are for educational and informative purposes only, and has been developed by a layperson in the benzodiazepine tapering and withdrawal peer support community. As such, this is not intended to be a substitute for professional medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment, nor should it be taken as advice that you should taper off your medication. Always seek the advice of your physician or other qualified health provider with any questions you may have regarding a medical condition or starting or stopping a medication taper. Never disregard professional medical advice or delay in seeking it because of the contents in this presentation. It can be very risky to reduce or stop any psychiatric drug, and it can be especially dangerous and potentially life-threatening when done rapidly or cold turkey. Any reductions to psychiatric drug dosages should involve careful preparation and is best made in collaboration with a prescriber who is well informed about a wide range of risk-minimizing approaches to psychiatric drug tapering. Before you begin, first make sure that your medication can be made into a liquid solution and is liquid friendly. Extended release or anything with a BB, or beads inside of a gel capsule, usually cannot be. This also includes pills with a coating. So ensure your medication is liquid friendly, and I've included a link to the Inner Compass about more information on this topic, and I'll also include that as a link in the notes. What tapering presentation would be complete without talking about Dr. Ashton? Dr. Ashton wrote Benzodiazepines, How They Work and How to Withdraw, also known as the Ashton Manual. So for 12 years, Dr. Ashton ran a benzodiazepine withdrawal clinic in England for people wanting to come off their tranquilizers, sleeping pills, and benzodiazepines. Much of what she knows about this subject was learned from those brave and long-suffering men and women. And this manual is the product of her research, experience, and tireless dedication to helping people recover from these drugs. Her manual is an excellent source of information and provides the first guideline on how to taper off a benzodiazepine safely. Dr. Ashton chose 5 and 10% reduction rates because she had to start somewhere. Those rates may be too high for some, which she acknowledged in addendums to her manual. Based on my studies and reading of personal accounts as well as my personal journey, I believe it's better to start low, even lower than 5 or 10%. I advocate for starting around 1%. See what your body can tolerate, build on that success. Then, if you can tolerate that, gradually increase to the rate that your body is comfortable at. Remember, you are always in charge of your taper. A quick overview of what we'll be covering in this presentation. I'll talk about why liquid tapering is the best method to use. I'll talk about the equipment and ingredients you'll need. I'll talk about the formula you'll use. I'll teach you how to calculate the formula. I'll teach you how to make the formula. I'll teach you how to start and create a taper plan. I'll talk briefly about the importance of journaling. I've also walked through some additional examples to help you better understand the concepts. There will be a live demo. I've given some quick Q&A. And finally, we'll talk about the Global Benzo Support Network. Let's talk about why you should consider using a liquid taper. Perhaps your medication isn't available as an oral solution or suspension in your country, and this does vary country by country. Perhaps your physician won't prescribe it to you, even if it is available in your country. Or perhaps your physician is willing to prescribe it to you, but you need to take it to a compounding pharmacy to have it made. And compounding pharmacies have their own issues. They are usually not very well regulated, and it can be very cost prohibitive. In countries that have privatized insurance, such as here in the US, perhaps your insurance doesn't cover it. Perhaps there is a high copay. Or in any country, perhaps you simply don't have one in your area. I came up with what I call the CATS model to describe the ideal tapering. And you want something that is going to be consistent, cost effective, and consumption. In liquid tapering, it's low cost to make. The consumption is you know exactly how much medication is in your liquid. So in some methods, such as water titration or in the dry cutting, you simply can't know how much medication you're actually consuming. So for example, in water titration, the method has you tossing medication. That is extremely wasteful. You also have no idea how much exactly medication is exactly in what you're tossing. And in dry cutting, because medication is not distributed equally throughout the pill, you have no idea exactly how much you're consuming or how much you're cutting away from the pill. A is for accuracy. T is for the tempo, and liquid tapering allows you to go slow and low, meaning you can go very slow at the pace you need and low reduction. It's also very stable, and it's also very simple to do. Next, we'll talk about the equipment and ingredients you'll need to create your liquid solution. Here is what you're going to need to create your liquid. You are going to need a container to store your liquid, and that is a mason jar or really anything with a lid. You'll need graduated cylinders or beakers for measuring. You'll need syringes or pipettes to measure out your doses. You'll need 10 days of your medication. You'll need propylene glycol. Yes, propylene glycol is extremely safe. And propylene glycol is a commonly used drug solubilizer in topical, oral, and injectable medications. It's used as a stabilizer for vitamins, and it's a water miscible co-solvent. And what that means is that it has the property to allow two substances to mix in all proportions, meaning it fully dissolves in each other to form a homogeneous solution. So by using water and propylene glycol, you are going to have a fully homogeneous solution. The alternatives that you can use are Orajel and milk, but make sure you use high-fat milk only. You'll also need water. And now let's talk about the formula, and it's a ratio. Let's talk about the formula. So using this formula, you're going to obtain a ratio of 0.1 milligrams of medication to 1 ml of liquid. This is the same ratio that a compounding pharmacy would use if they made your medication. It's based on 10, which makes it super simple to calculate. Remember the CATS model, simplicity. It's simple to convert milligrams to mil. All you need to do is just move the decimal point to the right. And remember, it's always going to be 1 ml of liquid for 0.1 milligram of medication. Here it is, the super secret formula that I couldn't find anywhere on the internet, but I'm going to share it with you. It's 1 milligram of medication to 2 ml of propylene glycol to 8 ml of water. Or you can use high-fat milk, and it's 1 milligram of medication to 10 ml of high-fat milk. Now I'm going to teach you how to calculate using the formula to create the recipe for your solution. Here's how to calculate the formula. We will calculate using 10 days of your prescribed medication. We'll use multiplication to scale the formula ratio for 10 days. And scaling is using multiplying or dividing, and in this case we're multiplying, all terms in the ratio by the same number, which creates a ratio with the same proportions as the original. And then in this way, we're going to scale it up for 10 days. So in this example, we'll use my original daily dose was 1.25 milligrams of Klonopin. So 10 days of medication, 10 times 1.25 is 12.5 milligrams. So I will scale the formula ratio by multiplying 12.5 by each term in the ratio. Continuing with my example, let me show you how to scale the formula ratio for your recipe. So I'm going to scale using 12.5 milligrams of medication times the formula of 1 milligram times 2 ml of propylene glycol times 8 ml of water. And that is going to give me 12.5 milligrams of medication to 25 ml of propylene glycol to 100 ml of water. And that is going to be my recipe for my liquid taper. So how do we convert milligrams to mil? Well, remember, the formula is a ratio and it's based on 10. So all we need to do is convert. It's super simple. Again, the CATS model. And remember, 0.1 milligram of medication is 1 ml of liquid. So continuing this example, I'm going to convert my dose of 1.25 milligrams to mil. And all I need to do is move the decimal point to the right. Or I can do the math. 1.25 divided by 0.10 is 12.5 mil. So in this example, continuing to take my daily dose as a liquid, I will take 12.5 ml liquid daily. Now let's do it and make your oral suspension. Let's make it. First thing to do is to measure out a 10-day supply of your medication. Using the formula ratio, scale it for 10 days. Measure out the water and the propylene glycol using your beaker. Put everything into a jar or another container with a lid, cap it, and shake it thoroughly. Store it in the sealed container. And this may be kept in the fridge or on the counter. It doesn't matter. You can keep it in your cupboard. It's shelf stable. Just make sure you keep it out of the reach of children. All right, now let's create a taper plan and put everything together. The reason I call it a taper plan and not a taper schedule is because I want to set you up for success. If you call it a schedule, a lot of people feel that if they can't keep up with the schedule, that somehow they're a failure, and that's not the case. Your body simply can't go at the rate of the schedule. But if you call it a plan, then plans are meant to change. And in that way, I believe you're going to be more successful. So what we're going to do is we're going to calculate your reduction rate. And the first thing you do is determine the percentage you want to start with, or the rate. And remember the tempo. Remember the tempo from the CATS model. The tempo is always slow and low. That's the golden rule for success. Make sure you give yourself enough time to acclimate to your new normal before you increase the taper amount. And remember, it's always easier to start low and then go up gradually. Listen to your body. Your body is going to tell you if it's too high of a reduction or too fast. In our example, I'm going to continue using 1.25 milligrams, and I want to calculate a 1% weekly reduction. And why did I choose 1%? Well, following on the work of Dr. Ashton, I believe it's better to start low and set yourself up for success. 5% or 10% simply may be too high to start with. If you start low, you can determine what you can tolerate and then gradually go up from there. So I've decided that I'm going to calculate at a 1% weekly reduction. I simply take my current dose, which is 1.25 milligrams times 0.01, and that gives me 0.0125. I'll subtract the rate from the dose, 1.25 milligrams minus 0.0125, and that gives me 1.2375 milligrams. I'm going to round it up to make life easier. Remember, keep it simple. And that gives me 1.24 milligrams. 1.24 milligrams becomes my new daily dose. Next, we convert milligrams to mil. And remember, the formula is a ratio and based on 10. All we need to do is convert it. And again, remember, 0.1 milligram of medication is equal to 1 ml of liquid. Continuing in our example, I convert my new dose of 1.24 milligrams to mil, and all I need to do is move the decimal point to the right. Or I can do the math. 1.24 divided by 0.10 is 12.4 mil, and 12.4 mil will be my new liquid daily dose. Next, let's talk about dosing and the frequency of dosing. Often, our prescribed dose varies depending on the time of day. And continuing our example, my medication prescribed is 0.25 milligrams in the morning and 1 milligram before bed. I calculated my taper dose, and that is now 1.24 milligrams, but because I'm doing a liquid, that's equal to 12.4 mil. So what do? Continuing with our example, I've been prescribed to take 0.25 milligrams in the morning and 1 milligram at night. I've decided I want to keep my normal schedule, so I calculate a 1% reduction for each dose, and then I convert them to mil. And you can see here how that splits out, and the total is still equal to 12.4 mil for the day. Another method is to even out or spread out your dosing to 2, 3 times, or even 4 times a day. And this will help smooth it out or spread it out and create more stability if you are feeling intradose withdrawal. And remember the S in CATS, stability. Divide your liquid daily dose by how many times a day you want to take it. An even dose twice a day, continuing in our example, would be 6.2 mil in the morning and 6.2 mil in the evening. And that gives me 12.4 mil. Or you could do 3 times a day, and that would look like 4.1 mil in the morning, 4.1 mil in the afternoon, and 4.2 mil in the evening. Still for a total of 12.4 mil. And the reason there's a little bit more in the evening is because 12.4 is not easily divisible by 3. So I just give myself a little bit more in the evening just to help me sleep. So I've started my taper. I've been tapering for a week and I'm feeling pretty good and I'm ready for my next reduction. What do I do? So when you're ready to reduce again, simply calculate your new reduction using the previous reduction's number. So continuing in this example, my current dose is 1.24 milligrams. I simply calculate a 1% reduction to find my new reduction dose. 1.24 milligrams multiplied by 1% gives me 0.0124. Simply subtract that from my current dose. And then, because remember, keep it simple, I just round it up and that gives me 1.23 milligrams. So 1.23 milligrams becomes my new daily dose. Next, let's talk about setting up a taper plan. Let's talk about how to create a sample taper plan. And remember, it's a plan, not a schedule. Plans are meant to change. Remember, slow and low is the tempo. This is the golden rule for a successful taper. And only go as fast as your body can tolerate. Make sure you give yourself enough time to acclimate to the new normal before increasing the taper amount. Hold when you need to. That means holding where you are at your current reduction dose. Hold as long as it takes until you feel better. And adjust your reduction amounts if you need to. Maybe you started off at a 1% reduction. Maybe you need to go to a 0.5% reduction. That's okay. Your body is going to tell you how fast or how slow you can go. And there's no right or wrong in the pace. And here's what this might look like. So week 1, for a 1% reduction, I might target 12.4 mil. Week 2, at a 1% reduction, I will target 12.3 mil. But remember, it's just a target. Your body will tell you what you can do. Let's talk about why you should journal your taper journey. Reasons for journaling. And I highly encourage you to journal. 1, keep track of your taper rate. You know exactly where you are. It also will help you keep track of what you're experiencing throughout your taper, which is extremely important because you want to note any withdrawal effects or side effects that you're having, and common ones can be anxiety, it can be insomnia, you might experience some brain zaps. All of those are manageable, but you want to keep track of what's happening so you can start noticing a pattern. So for example, in my taper journey, I've noticed that day 3 of my reduction is usually my worst day. So knowing that, I can plan around that. I keep my activities to a minimum. I try to make life as easy as possible on my day 3. Some people notice their worst days are day 7 or day 8. It's going to vary by person by person. Another reason to keep track of a journal is that you're going to notice good withdrawal symptoms as well. So I started noticing that my creativity was coming back. I started noticing I was vivid dreaming. And you want to keep track of the good things as well as the other things, such as you're noticing a brain zap. And a brain zap is simply just the feeling of electricity running through your head. Through journaling, I've noticed that what helps me with my brain zaps is I make sure I stay hydrated. If I get dehydrated or I'm not hydrating enough, that seems to increase my zaps or make them or bring them on. Intense emotion can bring them on for me, and so forth. And I've noticed these patterns simply through journaling. Here are some additional examples to help you understand the concepts. Let's talk about Jane. Jane is currently taking 5 milligrams of Valium, and her doctor won't prescribe it as a liquid. So what she's going to do is she's going to multiply 5 milligrams by 10 to give her 50 milligrams. And then she's going to take that and scale the formula by multiplying 50 milligrams by each term in the formula. Let's scale the formula. 50 milligrams times 1 milligram equals 50 milligrams. 50 milligrams times 2 ml of propylene glycol equals 100 ml of propylene glycol. 50 milligrams times 8 ml of water is 400 ml of water, and that's going to be Jane's recipe. Now, Jane's going to convert that to ml. So remember again, everything is based on 10, so we just need to convert it. 0.1 milligram of medication is 1 ml of liquid. So all Jane needs to do is convert her dose of 5 milligrams to ml. She just needs to move the decimal point to the right. Or she can do the math. 5 milligrams divided by 0.10 is 50 ml. So 50 ml liquid daily is her dose. Jane is going to start working on her taper. Jane wants to calculate a 1% weekly reduction. Jane takes her current dose of 5 milligrams, multiplies that by 0.01 for 0.05, and then she subtracts the rate from the dose. 5 milligrams minus 0.05 equals 4.95 milligrams. So 4.95 milligrams becomes her new daily dose. Now she just converts that to ml. And remember, the formula is a ratio and it's based on 10. Super easy, just convert it. Again, 0.1 milligram of medication is 1 ml of liquid. All she has to do is move the decimal point to the right. 4.95 is now equal to 4.5 ml, 49.5 ml. Or she can do the math. 4.95 divided by 0.10 is 49.5 ml. So she's going to start taking 49.5 ml liquid daily, and that's going to become her taper. So let's talk about her taper and dosing. So she's been prescribed to take 2 milligrams in the morning and 3 milligrams of Valium at night. She decided she wants to keep her normal schedule, so she calculates a 1% reduction for each dose and then just converts that to ml. And that gives her 19.8 ml in the morning, 29.7 ml at night for a total of 49.5 ml. But she's tried that and she's noticed a bit of perhaps a little inner dose withdrawal. And that's okay. So she wants to spread out her dose evenly twice a day, which honestly is what most people end up doing, is spreading it out 2 or 3 times a day. So an even dose twice a day, just divided by 2, doesn't divide equally, so she gives herself a little bit more at night. Still comes out to 49.5 ml. Or she can do it 3 times a day and divides that out by 3 and still has a total of 49.5 ml. When Jane is ready to reduce again, she will calculate her new reduction dose using the previous reduction dose. Jane's current reduction dose is 4.95 milligrams. She calculates a 1% reduction to find her new reduction dose. 4.95 milligrams times 0.01 equals 0.0495. Round that up to 0.05. Keep it simple. Then subtract the rate from the dose, which gives a total of 4.90 milligrams. Therefore, 4.90 milligrams becomes her new daily dose. Let's talk about Jane's sample taper plan. Jane is reducing by 1% a week. She remembers the golden rule, slow and low is the tempo. And she's decided that 1% a week is a good place to start. She also remembers to go only as fast as her body can tolerate, and she gives herself enough time to acclimate to the new normal before reducing again or increasing the taper amount. She remembers to hold when she needs to, and she will reduce her reduction amounts if she needs to. And this is what her sample taper plan might look like. Week 1, she'll reduce to 4.95 milligrams, converts that to mil. Week 2, she'll do another 1% reduction to 4.90, and so on and so forth. Again, she remembers that this is a plan, not a schedule. Plans are meant to change. Our next example is John. John is currently taking 2 milligrams of Xanax, and his doctor won't prescribe it as an oral suspension. His daily dose is 2 milligrams of Xanax, so he'll multiply 10 days of medication by 2 milligrams, and that gives 20 milligrams. He will then scale the formula by multiplying 20 milligrams by each term in the formula. John scales the formula. 20 milligrams times 1 milligram gives 20 milligrams. 20 milligrams times 2 ml of propylene glycol is 40 ml of propylene glycol. 20 milligrams times 8 ml of water is 160 ml of water. This becomes John's taper recipe. Now John just needs to convert everything to mil. So remember, the formula is a ratio, everything's based on 10. 0.1 milligram of medication is equal to 1 ml of liquid. So he just converts his dose of 2 milligrams to mil. He just needs to move the decimal point to the right. So 2.0 milligrams becomes 20 mil. Just to double check, he does the math. 2 milligrams divided by 0.10 is 20. That's 20 mil. So his liquid daily dose is 20 ml liquid daily. Let's calculate John's taper. John wants to calculate a 2% weekly reduction rate. He's decided that that's a comfortable number for him. So his current dose is 2 milligrams. He multiplies that by 0.02 to give 0.04. He then subtracts the rate from the dose. 2 milligrams minus 0.04 is 1.96 milligrams. 1.96 milligrams becomes his new daily dose. John converts milligrams to mil. He remembers that the formula is a ratio and it's based on 10. Now he just needs to convert. He remembers that 0.1 milligram of medication is 1 ml of liquid. He converts his new dose of 1.96 milligrams to mil. All he needs to do is move the decimal point to the right. Or he can do the math. 1.96 divided by 0.10 is 19.6 mil. John is going to take 19.6 mil of liquid daily. So let's talk about his taper and his dosing. So he's prescribed to take 2 milligrams only at night, but he decides he wants to keep his normal schedule, so he calculates a 2% reduction. And he just converts it. We've already done that. But he decides that he wants to spread out his dose evenly twice a day. All he needs to do is divide his taper rate or taper dose by 2 and split it out. So he'll take 9.8 mil in the morning and 9.8 mil at night. He's decided that based on his taper symptoms, because he's looked at his journal, he's going to dose 3 times a day. So he's going to take 6.5 ml in the morning, 6.5 ml in the afternoon, and 6.6 ml at night, because 19.6 doesn't divide evenly by 3. So he just adds a little extra to the nighttime dose. When John is ready to reduce again, he will calculate a new reduction dose using the previous reduction dose. He wants to try increasing his reduction rate. He felt pretty good at 2%. He remembers to go up slowly, and he wants to try a 2.5% reduction. His current reduction dose is 1.96 milligrams, so he calculates a 2.5% reduction to find his new reduction dose. 1.96 milligrams times 0.025, round that up to 0.05, and then subtract that new rate from the dose. 1.96 milligrams minus 0.05 equals 1.91 milligrams, and 1.91 milligrams becomes his new daily dose. Let's take a look at John's sample taper plan. John started by reducing 2% a week and then decided to increase his reduction to 2.5%. He remembers slow and low is the tempo, and that's the golden rule for a successful taper plan. John decides he's going to hold at 2.5% until he feels stable and see how he feels. And this is what his plan might look like. The first week he reduced by 2%, and then the second week he's reduced by 2.5%. He's left the rest of the weeks blank to see how he feels. Here are some commonly asked questions that I've encountered, and these are by no means exhaustive. So what if you're scared, terrified, or excited? Well, that's completely normal. This is scary. You've been told your entire life that you are going to need these medications in order to be a functional human being. And now you've decided that you want to come off these medications. That's scary, but it's also very exciting. Who are you going to be at the end of this journey? What if I can't do this? You absolutely can do this. It's not impossible. It takes a long time, but you can absolutely do this, and I'll help you through it. What if you tried tapering before and couldn't do it? Well, you may have tried by starting at too high of a reduction, or perhaps going too fast, and your body simply couldn't go at the rate that you wanted to, and that's okay. It doesn't mean that you're a failure. It just means that your body needed more time to heal. Remember, always go slow and low. That's the tempo. What if you're already into your taper and you want to switch to a liquid taper, and because you're using a different method? Well, that's fine. You can start your liquid taper wherever you are in your current journey. And if you want more help, we're here to help. You can reach me at contact.gbsn@gmail.com. I want you to remember, you are not alone. I'd like to tell you a little bit about the Global Benzo Support Network. We are a community and donation-based peer support network. We do accept donations to help us keep the lights on, and that means Zoom licenses, the cost of meetup, as well as funding future projects that we have in mind for the community, such as a website and community forum and things like that. I started it as a meetup in 2019 for those who are looking for face-to-face real-time support with others who are also tapering. Since then, we've grown. We now provide one-on-one peer support and coaching. We have weekly taper support groups over Zoom, and once the pandemic is over, I'd like to see us get face-to-face. We've also added additional support and skills groups, including support groups for those who have been cold turkeyed or in post-acute withdrawal. We have a support group for Support the Supporters, those of us who have friends and family who are supporting us in our journey. And we also have groups based on teaching each other skills, tools, and techniques that are based in DBT, CBT, and ACT. One of the things I've noticed is that there is a very large gap when we presented to our medical providers for reasons why they prescribed us these medications. Well, these medications don't make those reasons go away. They can exacerbate them, and as we start coming off of those medications, the reasons are still there, and some of the withdrawal symptoms can cause some trouble as well. So what we need to do is we need to build a really strong foundation and add as many tools that we can into our toolbox. So by the time that we're done slogging through this benzo swamp, we will be ready and we will be successful. And I have plenty more to come. I'd like to leave you with one of my favorite quotes, and this is from Muhammad Ali. Impossible is just a big word thrown around by small men who find it easier to live in the world they've been given than to explore the power they have to change it. Impossible is not a fact, it's an opinion. Impossible is not a declaration, it's a dare. Impossible is potential. Impossible is temporary. Impossible is nothing. Thank you for listening, and I hope you found this presentation helpful. If you have any questions or you need any assistance, please don't hesitate to contact us. And if you would like to check out the meetup group support groups, we'd love to see you. I hope to meet you soon.